What is going on, guys? So is there really a significant gap between what men and women earn? And is it attributable to sexism? We all know the answer. It's not attributable to sexism. But we aren't feminists, and feminists just can't see logic because everything's about feelings. And one particular feminist who's quite prominent, her name's Kamala Harris, or Kamala Harris. I'm not sure which of the pronunciations is correct, but it's going to be one of the two. So check this out. She is a Democratic presidential candidate. So she wants to run against Trump in 2020. She wants to run the United States. Right? And just keep that in mind while you're listening to this article. Harris is, so by the way, Kamala Harris thinks that there is a significant gap between what men and women earn, and she has a plan to fix it. Let me tell you about her brilliant, and I use that term very loosely, brilliant plan to fix this. Harris's plan, which broadly mandates that companies prove they aren't discriminating against women, proposes to fine corporations that don't close their pay gaps between women and men, with the proceeds going towards building out universal paid family and medical leave. Several studies have shown, and of course we know what type of studies, feminist studies, several studies have shown that women earn less than men. Yes, actually, that's 100% correct. They do earn less than men. That's why it's an earnings gap, not a wage gap, because they're not getting a lesser hourly wage than men for the same work. They just work less hours. That's fact. The data is in. There is no refuting it. Several studies have shown that women earn less than men, with the gap larger for Latinas and black women. Harris previewed the plan at a Sunday rally in Los Angeles, taking aim at the pay gap. "This has got to end," she said. The problems with this proposal begin with definitions. What is equal pay anyway? Even more problematic, what defines equal pay for equal work? Let me give you my take on that. I'll tell you what equal pay for equal work means. Equal pay for equal work means you work the same amount of hours, you have the same productivity output, and you get paid the same. But of course, on average, women don't work the same amount of hours, and they don't have the same average levels of output or productivity, right? Because you simply can't output as much productivity as men in less hours than men. And thank you, Kit, for your donation. Just says guilty until proven innocent. And women spend more than men despite earning less because they work less hard and fewer hours, but that's irrelevant. You're absolutely right on all counts. That is fact, and it also is irrelevant. But it's a good point and something to note because, you know, when you talk about people's savings and assets in retirement, you have to actually consider the net outcomes. So the gap between what people earn and what they spend. So you could earn $1 million a year, but if you spend $999,999, you have $1 left. You could earn $18,000 in a year compared to $1 million and spend $2,000 and you have $16,000 left over. You know what I mean? You're $15,999 better off than the guy who earned $1 million. So it's all about net outcomes, guys. It's not about how much you earn, it's about how much you spend relative to how much you earn. That's important. That's how you build assets. Anyway, so what is equal pay anyway? I've given you my definition. Even more, I love this term, even more problematic, what defines equal pay for equal work? Government tries to assign numerical values to specific jobs to measure gender discrimination, but each company is different. Yes, it is. Each company is different, and trying to use numbers to define value would appear to be a futile undertaking. This isn't stopping Harris, though. This isn't stopping Kamala Harris, who wants to overhaul anti-discrimination laws and turn the system into a cash cow to fund pet democratic social programs, including universal paid family and medical leave. So basically, let's legislate to steal money from companies that won't pay women more money for less work, and then use that to give back to women so we can get more votes. There it is. Companies would be fined 1% of their average daily profits for every 1% of wage gap during the last fiscal year. So if the wage gap in that particular no, I'm not going to use that word wage gap. I refuse to, right? Guys, I just want you to know, for every single time I use wage gap in this video, from just then until until the end of the video, refers to the specific quotation in here. I'm going to call it the earnings gap because that's what it is. So when I say wage gap, I mean earnings gap. So let's say the earnings gap is, say, 17%, right? Companies would need to give 17% of their profit every single day, before any taxes, before any expenses, to the government, so that it can be redistributed. Your wealth given away simply because you worked harder than somebody else and did more hours. Where's the incentive to work harder, you ask? Well, there isn't. That's the problem. So companies would be fined 1% of their average daily profits for every 1% of wage gap during the last fiscal year, after accounting for differences in job titles, experience, and performance. It would generate an estimated $180 billion over a decade. Hey, that's could pay for part of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal. Still be over, you know, however many trillion short though, because she's got no idea about economics, even though she has an economics degree. But hey, that's modern university for you. It gets worse, guys. Companies would also need to report the percentage of women in high-ranking leadership roles, but they wouldn't need to report the percentage of women in shit jobs like cleaning and paper-pushing admin, because those aren't important. It's only the plum jobs on the top floor in the glass boardroom overlooking the city. They're the only jobs that matter. Remember that, men. They're the only jobs that we need to push women into, right? Even if they didn't earn it the way that the men who are vying for the same job earned it. And thank you to the Joe Nerd Show. It says, keep the awesome work and fight. It sounds like you might have a YouTube channel there, Joe Nerd. Guys, go check out Joe Nerd, because he's such a good guy for donating 20 Canadian dollars. I appreciate you, man. Companies would also need to report the percentage of women in high-ranking leadership roles and the percentage who are amongst their highest paid. They will also be required to report the overall pay and total compensation gap that exists between men and women. Wait for it. Regardless of job titles, experience, and performance. So, to hell with people's experience, to hell with their performance, right? To hell with their job title. None of that matters. All that matters is that women get paid the same as men because they have a vagina. Even if they don't have the same experience, even if they don't have the same job title, even if they don't do the same amount of hours, right? Even if they don't perform at the same level, you still have to pay them the same. And if you don't, we will fine you 1% of you, 1% profit for every 1% in the wage gap, right? And I did say it's an earnings gap. Every time I refer to wage gap, it's an earnings gap. And as if all this isn't crazy enough, as if all this is not insane enough, as if all this isn't just too nuts to deal with. The statistics will be reported by employees' race and ethnicity. So this is intersectional wage gap data. This is intersectional feminist bullcrap. Right? So they basically going to say, well, now that we've fined you all of this money for your women doing less work and less hours and not performing at the same level, now we're going to shit on you for not being a good citizen, right? And being having all this white privilege, right? Now we're going to scold you for people from ethnic backgrounds not getting paid as much as, 50-year-old guys that have been working since they were 15. Just saying. And look, I know that that's not always the case. But you just can't simplify something down to average, and average is not the same, so therefore patriarchy. It just doesn't work like that. Set aside the monumental paperwork burden that the law's reporting requirements would place on American business. As a practical exercise in governance, the law is unfair and unworkable. But then, this is not a serious proposal. Yeah, it is. This is not a serious proposal. It is directed at a specific Democratic constituency, young, college-educated, single women. And while it won't get through Congress, it's another indication of how radical this field of Democratic presidential candidates can be, and the continuing leftward drift of a party that has fallen out of the mainstream. So guys, tell me what you think about this. If you think this is absolutely ridiculous, make sure you share this video with other people that don't believe that feminists are off their rocker, right? And even if they don't want to watch my video, even if they don't want to hear me speak, right, because they think I'm a misogynist or some nonsense like that, just tell them to go check out my video and look at the article in the description below. Speaking of below, no, I'm not talking about my knob. Hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it if you haven't already to get these videos that I put out fairly regularly. I try to do them daily, but it's not always possible. I do them live almost all the time. And I've got some good content coming up this week. Looking forward to it, guys. Last but not least, Men 101 in the box. Appreciate you, man. And thank you to Tenebris Nova. Says the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You know what? I think that's about the smartest thing Madonna's said in the last 20 years. Just my own thoughts. Remember the song? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And the rest of her ideas are about as terrible as my singing. If you guys do want to donate, head on over to paypal.me/SydneyMGTOW, patreon.com/SydneyMGTOW. MGTOW Monk says, Sydney, when's the next meetup? I'm going to be making some modifications to sydneymgtow.com in the next few days with details of my next Sydney meetup. So I don't know how I'm going to do the mechanics behind organizing everyone, but make sure to check that out. Probably, I would say, by maybe Friday, Saturday, should have that sorted. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here for now. Like I said, if you want to donate, donate. If you want to subscribe, subscribe. If you want to share this video, please share the video. Smash the thumbs up. Leave a comment. Do all that good stuff. And I'm going to catch you